And we're back with another episode of Flushing It Out podcast. And it was our third episode in the past 5 days, something like that. We've had a lot of guests recently. Um, did the season preview episode. Then we had Frank the Tank on Monday. And now today we have Matthew Cerrone, another incredible guest, our third guest. Matthew is the founder of the MetsBlog. And you started that in 2003, correct, Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like forever ago. It might as well have been.
Yeah, so you've been at this for a while. And are you still working for SNY right now currently, or
No,
doing?
actually, I'm not. We just very slowly kind of stepped away from one another. If I want to write, I can, but it's been more interesting just to kind of be a fan and watch and just see what's happening. I have a couple things I'm working on with a few people to try and launch something new, but for now, just chilling and watching spring training. And I
Yeah,
do miss being at spring training. That is always the best time of year. I feel like. I mean, short of the postseason, if
yeah,
we're so lucky. But spring training is great, and I do miss that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just kind of floating around and just watching what's going on. It's kind of nice, frankly.
yeah. Awesome, awesome. So I did a little bit of research on you before this, but for anybody who doesn't know, I guess kind of give like a little brief story about you and how the blog started because you rose to a pretty high standard in terms of the way fans see you, the way that you became like an official media member, like you're in the clubhouse, like you're around the players. So how'd you kind of go from ground zero to where you are today?
It was a lot of hard work in the beginning. I mean, it was the whole way, but in the beginning, it was difficult because you just didn't know what was going to happen. I was a class I took in when I was in journalism school, which ultimately the site, people were reading it. I kept writing it. Before I knew it, doing really good numbers. I was fortunate enough to have someone who was launching a blog hosting company, which at the time was somewhat new. He was a big Mets fan. He took me under his wing and really kind of helped build the site out and
Right.
show me the ropes, and then it grew. I eventually dropped out of school and kind of committed full time to doing the site. And in 06, '07, when SNY launched, I approached them. I had a big audience. Their site was terrible. It was just like, we have a TV network.
Right.
And I wanted access to the team. I was getting a little bit of friction from the organization. So it was like, well, hey, why don't we partner? We'll figure something out. And then eventually I ended up selling the site to them. They hired me to be their director of digital content. And we did a bunch of other sites. And, here we are. So.
Right, right. So definitely a cool story because on your website it says that you've reached up to 500 million page views, correct? From the beginning to now, or whenever that
Oh, no.
number was reached.
I mean, at this point, it's probably more than that. That was, I don't even know what the stats would be now because I haven't been privy to a lot of that, when SNY kind of took over. But,
Right.
I think at the most I was doing probably 5 million a month, I would think.
Wow.
There was a point where we had 50, 60, maybe 70,000 unique users every month, which to me was the bigger number because like that's bigger than the ballpark, which was always sort of my gauge. It was like, wow, that many people are reading every day. Like that's pretty crazy.
Right.
And so that was probably 2008, 9, 10, somewhere in there, which to me was sort of the heyday. It was right around the time Twitter launched. Facebook started getting more crowded with people, in their 30s, and that sort of changed. And so it was right before that was probably to me, it was sort of the heyday of it all. And then as those other things launched, it started to become, well, how do we adjust? How do we, survive this? How do I kind of make, take what Twitter's doing and adapt it? And, it became a whole other ball game at that point.
Right. Right. So I mean, let's face it, when you started the blog to right now, this team is a much different team. New ownership. We're all very excited. So I
It
mean,
was an
I'm sure.
understatement.
Yeah. So I'm sure that you have the same feelings as us, but we kind of recapped the off season, I think 2 episodes ago. So and we kind of gave it like a grade from 1 to 10. So like if you want to give us like your reactions, like a grade from 1 to 10, like we'd love to hear like what your thoughts are
On on the ownership change or on the off season
on the
or
off season. Well, on the off season, we know the ownership change
okay.
is like a 12 out of
Yeah.
10. We understand, but yeah,
Well, higher than that.
yeah,
Um, Yeah. The offseason, I would like to have done something a little bit more substantial in the outfield. I like JD Davis at third, but he kind of, I don't know. I almost, the argument, the discussion between him and Chris Bryant and a couple of the other moves, I'd really held out hope for Nolan Arenado. I thought that was a possibility early in the winter. And when Springer signed elsewhere, I thought, okay, this is, the move, but, for whatever reason, that didn't shake. And
the thing about Arenado was, like, even at the time, I wasn't so sure about that. And then now listening to him, he's saying, oh, yeah, like, I intend to be a Cardinal for the rest of my career. I was like, shit, like, that could have been, you know what I mean? Like, that could have been us.
Yeah. Some guys, I learned one thing talking with a lot of the players about other players, talking with them about their experience in New York. And it's definitely not for everybody. I mean, I know we've seen that, right? How many free agents, how many trades have there been? More, I feel like, than have worked out.
Yeah, too many.
There've been people that have they couldn't take it, and they don't want to admit it. I mean, Edwin Diaz, to a certain extent, you probably can make that argument initially. And so I'm not saying that Arenado was that, guy, but like some of these deals that just don't break, are not, and I'm using just other cities and other teams too. Like there's the player fit as well as the money, as well as the trade. It's so complicated. And to me, Arenado made sense, but the feeling I got from talking just with other players is like, he's going to want a more, St. Louis, those kind of towns, I think are probably a better fit. Trevor Story, I think, is a different deal, but, the Mets are in a position now where I feel like I had said, I kind of wanted to, as a fan, I was hoping they would really strengthen up the middle. I didn't really know much about McCann, so I like that pickup because it sounds like the leadership that he has behind the plate is going to be really big for the team in general, but the pitching staff, I think, is important. Obviously, shortstop is what it is. In center field, I just wanted to see, I like Nimmo, but I don't know, I just wanted to get a real true blue, spring.
Actual center field, yes. Yeah. So we all kind of.
So I would say like a 6, 7, because Lindor, that's huge. But I just wanted that other, whether it was pitcher or something, but it feels a little incomplete to me. But we'll see.
Gotcha.
About the whole Arenado thing, I was just thinking about this when you mentioned it. Do you think within the organization, there was a feel that they didn't want to go over that luxury tax to such an extent by bringing in Arenado, and they didn't want to they felt they'd be handcuffed making other moves?
I don't think that's the case. I think if anything, it's more, and this is a big Sandy Alderson thing. I think it's more about spacing it all out. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's less the luxury tax so much as it is just locking into these contracts. To me, it suggests they would love to re-sign Lindor or keep him, because that's the kind of move that would, even with Conforto, I have a feeling it's more about spacing them than it is, the one-time hit. I think Cohen would go over the luxury tax. I think Sandy would, and the GM and just the staff, but that's not the feeling I got. To me, it was more about measurement, and we want to build this, longer thing and have a Mets way. And I think there's a bigger picture to it than just the big hit. Personally, I was hoping they would just come out and rock everything, blow it out of the water, and send a message to baseball that, like, hey, we're planting the flag. This is a new day. Yeah. But, I don't know that was necessarily, what they wanted to do. And it takes two to tango, too. I mean, you got to keep in mind the other players. So. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned the whole Lindor extension thing. What do you think? How do you feel about the whole Conforto Lindor extensions? Like, do you think we'll get that done at some point in the coming weeks? And what do you think they're going to look like? I mean, those deals are going to probably be very complex and huge.
I know that Tatis one really.
That really messed up everything.
It really did, because if I'm Lindor, I'm looking at that going, why am I going to give up? I'm confident in my abilities. If there's any question mark, it's, National League, Mets, NL East, pitching. I don't know, big park, how that's going to play out for me, going into free agency. But he's gonna have a good year. He's, elite. So if I'm him, how do you take the offer from the team you have and not hit the open market when you see a deal like that. It's just Conforto's a different story. Homegrown, he's been here. I know Boris is his agent, but that one to me feels like a lock. It's just a matter of working it out. Lindor, I feel like that Tatis thing really screwed him up for the Mets.
I was seeing stuff like 8 years 280 or like maybe more. You think more?
I think he's getting like 10, 330, something like that. Well,
remember, guys, there's a difference between what you want and what you get. And I think from his position, he should ask for the moon. And, he's going to put that. Let's put it this way. I mean, agents aren't stupid. They're all about leverage and opportunity. And right now, he doesn't have a whole lot of leverage, or the Mets don't. And so if I'm him, I'm playing it out. Give me 1 year. Let me hit the market. We'll pull a Cespedes, Piazza. You want to work it out later, we'll do it. But, I got to hear what other teams have. And, like, the agent probably has a pretty good sense. They always do. So, if something doesn't work out, he's going to be a full-blown free agent. It's going to drag, I think, through the winter. But, we'll see.
Do you think the whole coming to the NL, new ballpark, new teams he's facing might have an effect on his play this season, and then going into the open market with guys like Javi Baez, Trevor Story, a lot of giant name shortstops going out there as well? Do you think that might entice him more to sign that extension?
Well, the unknown is the season, COVID, profits, revenues, and all that kind of stuff. I think that more than his ask, it's who wants to spend that money, who has it. A lot of these teams, and the Mets are really no different. I know the Wilpons, and I'm glad they're gone, but they still spent roughly the percentage of revenue that a lot of the other teams did. The problem is they just weren't making a lot of money, or they were using it for other things. So, the point I'm making is, like, if these other teams aren't generating the same revenue that they had been, who knows what they're willing to spend? That was the advantage the Mets had coming into this offseason with Cohen. Was like, of all the owners, he probably made the most money. So, I'm not sure how that's going to impact somebody like Lindor, who looks at the market, because it's going to affect all of them, right? It's going to find its own level. So Baez is going to face the same thing. I guess what I'm saying is, if I'm Lindor again, and I believe in myself, and my agent believes in me. Ballpark, no ballpark, National League, doesn't matter. If I'm going to have the season I want, I'm going to take it to the market, because my agent's telling me, and he's confident that, I know these other players are out there, but we can get this. We know, because they know. It's pretty remarkable how these guys are pretty on the money a year in advance. They know what's going on when they have an elite player, because it's constant conversation. It's not like they just pick up the phone, the day free agency starts. So, I mean, like I'm saying, I think regardless of these other players, and it's a little inside baseball, but, like, regardless of these other guys, Lindor has the qualities he has. His agent's going to know what's going on. If they feel like taking whatever they can from the Mets now is the best play, they're going to do it. And if they don't, they're not. And it's like they're going to roll the dice with these other, the other players that are out there. So I don't think it's that big of an impact, I guess is what I'm saying. It should be, and it sounds like it when we talk about it, but in terms of actually rubber meets the road, they're going to do whatever they'll take their shots.
Okay.
Yep.
Mouth, you got it.
Yeah, Mouth.
So, as you were saying, how there was some things that you thought they missed out on the offseason, but overall, with this team that they have now, what would you say is a success this coming year, and what would you say is a failure?
Well, when the owner comes out on the first day and says what he says, I gotta, whether they sneak in a postseason because of rules or they win the division. I think World Series is what the expectation was set. It's hard to believe that, because that's not in our DNA. But, like, to me personally, I'm always a weird gauge, because, like, I'm the type that likes the story of the season. I want it to be exciting. I like being on the edge of my seat and coming down to the wire. And I know that's not necessarily what you're asking, but, like, 1999, which my guess is you guys don't remember, was my favorite team, right? They didn't even get past, where they did in the playoffs with the Braves. But like, to me, that was my most fun season because it was so exciting and it was so unexpected. And I just had a shit ton of fun during it that, like, to me, that was amazing. 15 was awesome. They got to the World Series and that was great. But if you remember the roller coaster of that season, it was more than just getting to the World Series. It was all of the ups and downs and Wilmer and Cespedes and, two knuckleheads in the middle of the lineup in May, and seems like the season's going to fall apart. And somehow, like, to me, that's what I'm hoping for. It's not the answer you're looking for, but like, I want fun. I want to have an exciting season, and I hope they get to the playoffs in the World Series, but I just want it to be memorable. That's always kind of what I look for. And I think they have a really awesome, and I know I said I wish that the offseason was a little better, but that's only because I was wanting that other big player. But I think the homegrown team, they're building a team that's different. And from what they have had, the mix is really good. I think we all have a real good attachment to the players like DeGrom and Conforto. And there's a connection that I think will make for that kind of season. So, to me personally, it's seeing these kids keep developing, that they win together, that we all have fun as fans, that like, it's just a fun season, especially with everything that's been going on the last year. I think it would be kind of nice to have that type of excitement. If they get to the World Series, awesome. But, I'd rather have an exciting season that ends in the playoffs than have a boring season that ends in the World Series. Like, if they're going to win it, great. But, let's not go that far.
I think with the group of guys they have, I don't think we're going to have to worry about whether it's going to be exciting or not, because, we saw in 2019, that was pretty exciting, even though we had some hair pulling moments. I think that we're almost kind of geared and ready for something like that.
Well, and it's more fun rooting for, players that you've seen come up, and a guy like Lindor, like it's been a while since they've had that level player come in. From the outside. I mean, Cespedes brought that energy. Prior to that, Piazza, like, it's not a common thing. So, like, and it's the trade that we have always kind of brainstormed and wished would happen, but never did, and try to convince ourselves that maybe they can make the deal for, a guy like Lindor, and then to see him come in with Carrasco on top of it. It's like, it's not unprecedented, but it sort of feels like it. Yeah. And, rooting for that. I understand what you're saying. But, some seasons fizzle out. It just doesn't play out the way you want, right? So, I don't know. That's kind of what I'm looking for. It's kind of it's not the answer that everybody wants to hear, because I know you're like, oh, World Series or bust. But
yeah, no, it makes sense what you're saying. It makes sense.
Yeah. I think when you get to be my age, like, you just kind of want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I want them to win, but like, there's so much stuff going on priority-wise. Like, if I can have an escape, watching baseball and it's fun, that's kind of, important.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Matt, with you talking about like the whole homegrown core thing and how it's like the first time we've had that in a while, I keep thinking about Sandy coming back and all the great draft picks he had. Dom, Michael, Wheeler. I mean, he got all those guys that came to that 2015 team.
Well, so with him, Omar had a lot to do with it too. Don't forget. He
had Harvey and all that, and he did a great job. Sure. But I always think of Sandy with like great drafting and stuff. So with Sandy retaking the reins, how do you think this year's draft is going to look, especially with the top 10 pick and us trying to rebuild the farm system to the point it wasn't like 2013, 2014, when teams envied the depth we had in our farm system?
I'm probably not even qualified, honestly, to answer it. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, I haven't followed it that, last year was really weird because like I tuned out, obviously a lot of people did. But I kind of enjoyed it because I didn't have to, I enjoyed not having to have to know what was going on, if that makes any sense. That's probably difficult to understand, but doing what I did for 15 years, under that sort of pressure of what was going on, it was kind of nice. So I really don't know much, and I haven't talked to really anybody there. I haven't reached out to anyone. I have numbers of guys that, are in the front office, but I don't know. Like I said to you at the top, I'm just trying to kind of lay back and enjoy it as a fan and not know the answer to your question. I know that sounds crazy.
Yeah. Well,
It's true.
then, well, just for my second
You
one,
tell
then,
me.
which
You tell me.
I mean, I love the way our farm system is right now. I like the top of it. I like Alvarez, Mauricio. I love Brett Beatty, and I love Peter Crow Armstrong. And for some reason, I've loved to see the way that guys like Matt Allen and JT Ginn have developed.
Mhm.
And I think we need another top blue chip pitching prospect. Because, there's going to be a day when Jake is gone, even though it seems impossible right now. I mean, who knows how long Stroman and Syndergaard and Carrasco will be around. I feel like we're going to need guys from the ground in instead of always coming from free agency.
And we kind of got really used to that. I can remember the spring trainings where it was like, okay, who's the next guy? Like it was Wheeler, then it was this one, and then it was that one, and here's Syndergaard, and you should hear the pop of the mitt from so-and-so that's coming up. Who's the next one?
Because it was like every year when there was like a new pitcher coming up, we had like
right. And that's kind of stopped. Like Peterson is good, and but not, what. And you look at DeGrom, who came out of really nowhere. He wasn't in anybody's top 10, top 100, and here he is, the best pitcher in the world, as far as I'm concerned. So so I hear you about the draft. Here's the thing. Following this for so long and being so in the weeds on it, and I've learned, my personal opinion is the draft and all that stuff is in some ways overrated, because I cannot begin to tell you the number of players that I've written about that turned out to be absolutely nothing. Guys that we get excited about. I thought Anderson Hernandez was going to be like the next great thing, and now you probably don't even know who that. Maybe so it's hard to. I don't want to say take it seriously, because that's not the right word, but it's just hard to believe in it because the odds are so low, and in some ways they're just. This is awful, especially when you get to know these guys personally and to a certain extent. They're really just chips at that point. They're making bets. So, I don't know.
That's one thing with Sandy that surprises me so much. One thing with Sandy that surprises me so much is he's hit on so many of those first round picks.
Yeah.
And you're just, you look back at it, there's guys we miss on like pre-Harvey, you just look through and there's tons and tons of misses. Mm-hmm. And then, like you see Sandy's and Omar, like you said, they had so many consecutively that made an impact at the big league level. And you're like, that's a little unprecedented for an organization.
What I'm encouraged about, or what I always found interesting, and this went from Omar into Sandy. I don't know how Brody operated because it was so brief, but
and chaotic and delusional.
Yeah, right. What I liked about Omar was he just sort of set, and Sandy was the same way, just sort of set a strategy, set an idea of what we're looking for, because this is how I'm reading the, where baseball is and where it's going and what we need. And just, they kind of set like a director and then listened to a lot of people. I remember hearing, I knew Omar's secretary assistant really well. And she always would say, he comes and asks me what I think. She's like, I have no qualifications whatsoever. Like, that's not my job. But he wants to know, right? He listened to everybody to get opinions, and Sandy was the same way. And so I think what was interesting about their drafts were a lot of times stuff came out of nowhere. Everybody was predicting a certain position or a certain level, and then they'd go and do something else. And I think it's hard to get, I like the fact that Sandy's that way, and I think it will go back to sort of the way they were doing things, because it's a continuation of kind of what they were and what he's about. I was a big D. Podesta fan. He really, when they came in, they helped kind of restructure the system, but they still operated with the same kind of way of doing things. Mm-hmm. So I think they'll go back. I think you'll see sort of a continuation of those kind of picks. At least I hope so. But,
I'd hope to.
We won't know in 5 or 10 years. That's the problem.
Yeah. Absolutely. So last thing that we ask all of our guests is what is your most painful Mets memory? And then what's your favorite Mets memory?
Kenny Rogers in that night against the Braves. I'm still not over it. I still get pissed off when I see it, highlights of it. Didn't
Clem say that one too? Didn't Clem from Barstool say that
Clem said it too, yeah.
Because if you experienced it, the hope and the you just felt like after coming off that Grand Slam single, like, it's destiny. And then this asshole, misses the, So that's definitely the worst. I mean, there's been a lot, but, that's the worst. I love a lot of the baseball moments, right? Like, I was able to watch the 86 World Series, and like I went the Grand Slam single, being in the stands. That was probably the best thing I saw in person.
Wow.
But I got to tell you, I never really had, I've never sat at home and watched something and got such this weird buzz excitement than when Cohen gave that speech, when he took over. It was like nothing only because it's nothing I'd ever seen or experienced before. So that's where it's so memorable. Like, I've seen walk-off wins and I've seen all that stuff in World Series, but I've never seen an owner, because all I really known was the Wilpons. And to have somebody sit down and say the things that he said was pretty exciting. And like, that to me was really memorable. In person, it would be the Grand Slam single. But I got to give it to Cohen. I mean, that was pretty unique.
Yeah, I agree.
As I get older, I mean, I'm only 20, but I mean, it's just so funny that I keep meeting so many Mets fans who have been at the Grand Slam single. Like, my dad's been there, my uncles. I mean, the amount of people that I've just met who's like, oh, best Mets moment, gotta be when being at the Grand Slam single game. And I'm like, how many people could have been at that game? It was raining.
I saw my ticket stub. I mean, interestingly enough, there's just an aside story. I don't know how much time you got, but you used to, back in those days, you had to actually go to the ballpark at like 3 a.m. and wait in like a queue to, a cattle call of like 15, 20 fans would have to move gate to gate to gate until you bought your hard paper tickets. And like, it was weird. It seems almost like I might as well be talking about the Stone Age, but we couldn't get tickets to that series. And my buddy just happened to call the ballpark. It was like, because they used to get credit card cancellations and tickets would come about. And he was like, do you have any tickets? They had, yeah, we have 2, Mez, blah, blah, blah. He calls me at work. He's like, dude, you have to leave now. Like, we have to go now. And we went. It was pouring rain. It was like the strangest thing.
Right.
Didn't even know that it was a home run until we got in the car. Like, we just thought it was a double and they won. Because it was so loud and so crazy when it actually played out. We were in the car driving home. We hear, Howie Rose or whoever was doing the post game those days. Like, and it was a home run, and like the ball went over the fence. Like, you had no idea. It was really it was a very interesting experience and awesome.
Yeah. That's actually good.
Awesome.
That's like a cool moment that like you didn't even know it was a home run and you had to wait till after that. That might be the craziest part of it all. I actually forgot one. I forgot one thing, because we're trying to work this into the end of all of our episodes. We want to do a little Mets trivia. So,
terrible trivia. This is not going to go well. I'm telling you right now.
I don't really think this is that hard of a question. But so rewind to Johan's no hitter. That was one of my favorite Mets memories, just because I watched every single pitch of that game just by chance because I was watching the game. When Mike Baxter made the catch and he slammed his wall, you remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The question is, who was the batter that hit that fly ball?
Who cares?
Come on.
I have no idea. I don't even know. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Jim, what do you guys got?
Yadier Molina.
Yeah. I didn't know that one either. So.
Yeah, it was Yadi. Yep.
Oh, that's I don't know how I can't remember that, given his history.
Yeah.
That's my exact thinking. I always remember, because I know he was going to be. I thought he was going to be the one to screw us again.
Yeah, that's pretty. I can't believe I don't. I mean, listen, you were so out of breath on the play. That really, the lack of oxygen. I'm not surprised I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, that's shit. Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm not good at that stuff. I remember the moment. I tell you what I was wearing, what I was drinking, and where I was, but I have no idea who was at the plate. Gotcha.
That's all right. We're gonna try to work in those questions every time, but we definitely appreciate your time. We'd love to have you back on. I know you're a busy guy, but if we could ever connect again, that'd be awesome.
I tend to ramble and babble, so hopefully this was useful.
Oh, it was awesome. We do the same thing every time. We come on here and talk. It's always great. So we really appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for the info on the farm system. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right, take it easy, guys.
All right,
you
too. Thank you.
Shout out Matt Cerrone. That was he's a little more lively than you know who, but whatever. We don't have to say anything about that. But that was definitely really cool for Matt to come on. Really nice guy. So yeah, another good guest in the books.
Awesome guest. Way to get that one, Nick.
Anyone on deck?
I'm working on it. I'm working
Yeah, we
on
gotta
it.
work on that.
Sorry.
I'm
Asking
working.
around.
I got a couple things in the works right now.
Yep. Well, when's the next time you guys want to do one? Let's see.
I mean, we just did 3 in a week.
No, I know. Yeah, so we'll probably take like a week off. Maybe we'll take a
We
breather.
need a little break. Let's do it let's wait until around first spring training game or something like that.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's fine with me. So cool. I'll be talking to you boys then.
Sounds good.
Talk soon,
See
boys.
ya.